Okay, so we will start to talk on the slides 4. And we have learned a lot about the SQL. Most of them is for selecting the data, but SQL also can be used for analyze the data. And if you want to see more of these content, you can search over here or go to the Google to learn search SQL tutorial for additional things. So besides retrieve the original, SQL is commonly used to summarize information for data purchase, etc. However, although you can do this, summarize information is more professional and flexible to use some programming language to analyze data and only use SQL to retrieve the original data. That's at least what I'm gonna do. Because other professional programming language like Python, it's actually can be more powerful and useful than SQL in terms of especially when they need to collect the data from third-party resources, or you need to do the calculation from all different databases. But SQL is only capable of doing the calculation within your own database, so they do have some limitation. So the analogy to this one is we use the whisk or chopstick. So when you blend your egg, it's more professional to use a whisk, but for the Chinese people, they just eat. They use chopstick, and it's easier for them. Also use a chopstick as a whisk, although it's not as professional as this one. But the benefit is you just need to have one item rather than you have so many kitchen devices. Especially when you are living in a studio, you are not living in the house, you don't have plenty of the room, you probably want to minimize the item, whatever you're gonna have, but you still want to do the job. So for some base simple data analysis, and it's done within, if it can be done within the database, then you probably just use SQL. You don't even bother to use two different tools to do it. So there's some pro and con. So for the SQL, they do a lot of like similar to the for loop function in any programming language. But another important component in the programming language is the if statement. And they can just change the data in different situations. So over here, I want to categorize the employee according to the salary they're gonna earn. So over here, I will have the case when. So starting from case when all the way to the end is the calculation of your column based on certain logic over here. So you can see you start here, press comma, you have here, you have another comma, and all the way over here, you can view that as another additional column you're gonna select. And after that, if you want to have another additional column, let's say job ID, you can put it over here, okay? But if you don't, then you just end over here. You don't need to have the job ID. So let's just run this. Let you see how this is gonna look like. So I have the several logic. So your salary, if it's above 10,000, I will classify it as high. But but if you pass this one and you are not in the high category, that means you're already below like 10,000. Then when it's between 5,000 to 10,000, that's something called the middle. And if you don't even pass this criteria of about 5,000, that means if you go above here, that's low. That means you actually go into this category. Okay, and if you wanted to have another column, let's say the job ID, so essentially case when over here is just a column you're gonna have. And then when you have this one, so you just add additional column. So it's case when whatever the condition, then you will specify the value like this one, and when the value of this, you specify another value. So that's the way how you're gonna do. So that's the exercise. Say, okay, I want to have the new column to say for the employee type, and then just depending on when they were hired, and I'm gonna have the senior or junior. Okay, so I do need to have the hire date here, and the same logic. So when the hire date is before that means it's smaller, I will use to date function. To date function, so it's 01/01/2005, and then I'm telling them, so it's DD MM and year. So if they hired before, then that's senior. So if something else, if it's something else, it's just higher after that, then that's junior. Or you can say, okay, when this is greater than that, then it's up to you, but the same logic. Over here, it's not the class type anymore, so it's the employee type. So when we have this, and we click on run, keywords, it's not expected. I have it from. That's weird. What else? When, then, as junior. From keywords not found. Really? That's weird. Just wait a minute. I cannot have a job ID at the end. It's so painful. Just from keywords from where expected. Higher, I think it's higher date, and the to date function. Why? Okay, let me just try to do the. Oh, okay. Sorry, because when I have the hiring date, I forgot to add another semicolon, because when I do not have a semicolon, these will all together will consider as one column, and apparently that's not what is wrong. So I need to have another semicolon over here, and then when you run this, so you can see for this person it's senior because it's before 2005 January 1st. This is junior because it's after that, so etc. And all you can see, that's the thing you will move all the way below. Okay, So that's the if statement. It's just like when you have a different data and you want to do that in different condition, and that's the case when mirror the if function you're going to use in any programming language. That's for the first one. And then another thing is for the SQL view. So let's say in the HR database, suppose the human resource wants to have the employee ID, full name, email, phone, salary, job title, department name in one table again and again. So what are you going to do is you actually will do the selection like this one. Okay, so you just join all these tables together and select all the attributes. So you can see you have the employee ID, full name, that's the calculation you have, and the email, etc. That's in one table. But that means you're gonna do this each time you write the query, and this query is not that simple. Okay, it kind of takes time. So another thing you can do is you can try to create a view. That means it's defined from the other selection, and you can use this again and again. So instead of just write this SQL again and again, you can actually try to use a syntax look like this one. Say create view, that's the HR view as this select. So that means, okay, for this query, I will actually create this as a virtual table. That's HR view. When I create this one, and then the rest of thing I need to have is select star from HR view. You just have exact information coming from here. Okay, so you create this one, and then you select star from the HR view. You can have this information. And the benefit from this one is you can see it's much easier for you to have all this information. Just have simple query rather than you join all these together again and again. And for this one, let's just do another exercise. Before we jump into the exercise, you keep that in mind. The SQL view is not it doesn't mean you actually create another table to save this data. You don't create any table at all. Okay, essentially, you can just consider that it's a stored SQL. They don't really have any data inside. You just obtain the data from the other view. So in that kind of case, the view definition cannot use order by. So when you define the view, because they don't have the data, you cannot use order by defining the view. But selecting from view, you can add additional order by after that, but you cannot have the order by within the view. And then the exercise to create the view to show the street, state, and the country from each location. So you just create view. So that's location view. Let's say location view. So the select, I need to have street, address, city, and the country name. So this is from street is from the locations. So you need to go back to check all these table, and then this should be join the countries table. All locations country ID equal to countries country ID. Okay, so that's the view you're gonna create. Once you create this view, so that's location. Actually missing A here. So I have location view. Okay, so when I create this location view, I can have the select star from location view. That's gonna show all the information, street, city, province, and the country name for each location you're gonna have. Okay, so that's the results location view by join. How you're gonna do that, and keep that in mind. So the SQL view is just construction from the other table. The purpose is hiding other isolated data, and it just also help you to display the result of computation and hide the complex SQL syntax. You don't bother to write this SQL like syntax again when it's complicated.